In itself, the bent over row doesn't seem like a skill, but it is very important for helping your other skills because it's not just a back builder, but a back awareness builder. And that's huge. That's a game changer for your other lifts. If you can understand the bent over row, then you're going to have greater success building your other skills. The first important point we have to make when doing a bent over row is that the force to the body has to be coming perpendicularly, 90-degree angle to the spine. Because the point of a bent over row is to work parts of the back that don't get as much play as these big nasty traps. We're often shrugging up. We create so much tension here in our day-to-day life and in the gym that these guys tend to be a little overworked. And we need to focus on other parts of the back. And that's the beauty of the bent over row, is we got to get the rest of the back to play. And to do that, we have to create this awareness with our shoulder blades. They have to move in a way that we're not actually that used to. And that is pull the shoulder blades back and towards the butt. Gravity, which pulls from the ground up, is going to have to pull on you at a 90-degree angle. Your spine will have to be parallel-ish to the ground. The more upright you are, the less you're going to be pulling the shoulder blades back and towards the butt, and the more you're going to be shrugging up. So that could be the first challenge, getting yourself parallel to the ground. Not easy for everyone. It involves a solid hip hinge, making sure you can hinge at the hips and get yourself parallel to the ground. You can bend the knees all you want. In fact, you can even rest your belly on your quads if you want. Nothing wrong with that as long as you're parallel to the ground. But your spine shape is important. The parallel part is great as long as you keep that spine shape. Which brings up the next point. Very little actually moves on a bent over row. Your arms get pulled, so they move, but your shoulder blades do all the moving. So when we get ourselves parallel to the ground, this spine shape cannot change. The spine stays locked in place and just the shoulder blades move, and they pull the arm. But there's a point where you can get to the top and your elbow starts to pull and your shoulder rounds forward, making the arm and the upper trap trying to do more of the work. So be careful when you row that the shoulders aren't actually rounding forward at the top. And that's really hard to figure out because you can't necessarily feel it unless you're totally dialed in. And that's the beauty of the bent row. Teach those other trap muscles, the middle and lower trap muscles, to pull the shoulder blades down and back instead of rounding up. Every additional movement we get from the body takes away from the strength of the back. And every additional movement we get from the body tells us we're using too much weight. Why not use a weight that'll constantly test those muscles, that'll put the right amount of work into those muscles through the entire lift? So I bring them up first, and then I get into position, parallel to the ground. Squeeze the blades, control down, let the blades go. Squeeze the blades, control down, let the blades go. Squeeze the blades, control down, let the blades go. At no point was there any bounce or jerk or jump or pop. Just a squeeze and control, and then release. The shoulders did most of the moving, the spine never changed shape. When that shoulder blade lets go, it's real easy to round. So be extra careful to let that shoulder blade go without losing the spine and rounding the back and letting the butt tuck. We have such a connection with the hips and the shoulders that often when the shoulders move, the hips want to move too. That can ruin a perfectly good deadlift, it can ruin a perfectly good squat, and it can definitely ruin a bent over row. So make sure everything's locked in place so the shoulder blade moves independently of anything else. Everything else is locked rigid. You might have noticed that when using a pair of dumbbells, I went with a wider stance and brought the dumbbells on the inside. That works better for me. You might not like it as much. Maybe you go narrower, dumbbells on the outside. That's fine. Another option is, of course, kettlebells. They work great. And yes, there's a one-arm version. So many ways you can do it. I'm a huge fan, though, of using the body as a solid stabilizer, not a mover. It doesn't help in the movement, but being able to stabilize your body while you row with one arm. Still, the goal is to get parallel. So I'll deadlift it up. It's in my left hand, so my left leg will go back. How far is up to you? I like it back pretty far. That allows me to hinge, bring my body onto my right leg, get parallel to the ground, hold, control, shoulder goes. Squeeze, control, shoulder down. Squeeze, control, shoulder down. Pretty darn parallel. I can get a good squeeze at the top. The rest of my body is completely stable and solid. You can move a lot of weight that way. But notice there's no bounce, there's no help, there's no twist. That's important. A twist is, again, your spine trying to do the work for you. The spine stays locked in place. Shoulder blade does all the movement. Understanding the difference between those two is actually much trickier than it sounds. That's the beauty of the BentRrow, is building that awareness, understanding that your shoulder's moving, not your spine. Here's one of my favorite variations because it ensures that you hold at the top. It's an alternating row, but the hand that's not rowing is holding it in place. Only one comes down at a time, ensuring that the other one is squeezing, crimping, squishing at the top, making my lap cry a little.